Al Jazeera Podcasts.
It's mythical, this place. This is not a place that is known by most of Bangladeshis. This was a place of incredible fear.
This is Andalib Chowdhury. She's a professor of English. She is one of a handful of people walking through the ruined remains of one of Bangladesh's most famous buildings.
This is Gana Bhavan,
The House of the People?
the House of the People. Gana means people, and this is the House of the People. Looks horrible.
It looks horrible. Horrible is probably underselling it.
There's glass on the floor. You can hear it. There's graffiti on the walls.
The Gana Bhavan is a sprawling and secretive fortress in the center of Dhaka. It was the Prime Minister's official residence, the locus of state power, which, under Sheikh Hasina's rule, became increasingly brutal, relentless, and uncompromising.
You cannot understand the suffering of people out of this palace.
It does feel like a palace, a stately red brick mansion that was full of artwork and precious keepsakes. Not anymore, though.
I can see hatred. I can feel that people literally poured their hatred in here.
It's just been completely trashed. The walls, the drywall's been ripped out.
Look at around, it feels like a zombie attack.
Like a zombie attack.
Zombie attack, yes.
This is where Sheikh Hasina and her Awami League government's long tenure came to a sudden end on August 5th, 2024.
Celebrations in the streets of Dhaka as the news that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had resigned and fled the country.
Within minutes, people began swarming in.
Protesters barged into the most secure building in the country and ransacked it, looting whatever they could get their hands on.
Before July, I don't think 1% of the people believe that she could be thrown out.
So what happened? How did the people of Bangladesh manage what once seemed impossible?
She would always say, Bangladesh doesn't have the strength to get rid of my Awami League. Her ministers would also say that there's no one strong enough to overturn Sheikh Hasina's vote.
She was wrong. They all were. And over 3 remarkable, sweltering, and suffocating weeks, every move her government made backfired. Every act of violence boomeranged back on her.
Every tyrant acts like this. But when people realize that if they resist, the tyrant cannot rule them.
In phone calls obtained by Al Jazeera, we'll hear Hasina in her own words. Her desperate attempts to stay in power, personally ordering the use of lethal force to control demonstrators.
Now they will use lethal weapons. Shoot wherever they find them.
Her advisors trying desperately to control the narrative.
Don't show the clashes with the police. Just show the damage they have caused.
To hide the evidence of their deadly crackdown on dissent.
Abu Said from Rangpur who passed away. Has his postmortem been done? Have you received the report?
Despite the killings, the torture, the shutting down of the internet, none of it worked.
I think the real story about Bangladesh is the tenacity and the resilience of the people.
And when the people stood up with one voice and said, "No more," there was no stopping them.
There was no going back. It just escalated and escalated. And of course, before that, the demands were different. Once it came to that, it was a one-point demand. She must go.
And she did go. It all played out in such dramatic fashion, it even amazes the country's interim leader, Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus.
Unbelievable. I said, this is a biblical picture. This kind of thing can happen only in the movies. It's not in the real world.
This is Al Jazeera Investigates. I'm Kevin Hirten. This is 36 July, Uprising in Bangladesh, Episode 1, I Am Razakar. The first thing you notice when you walk through the ruined remains of the Ganaboban is the graffiti. There are slogans, there are slurs, things I wouldn't repeat here, but what you see the most is the term 36 July. It's everywhere. That's what the students call August 5th, the day they finally removed Sheikh Hasina from power. Their promise during the uprising was simple. July would not end without victory. So when the breakthrough did come, just 5 days into August, they gave it a new name, 36 July, the day that would mark their refusal to surrender. There's a darkly ironic question at the heart of this story. How did Sheikh Hasina, a former champion of democracy and the daughter of one of the heroes of the independence movement of 1971, become herself the villain of the uprising of 2024? We'll find answers by exploring how Bangladesh's tortured history intersects with Sheikh Hasina's personal family trauma, but also by hearing Hasina in her own words, through exclusive phone conversations collected by the very surveillance state she installed. We've authenticated these calls through voice matching and digital forensic analysis. And over 5 episodes, we'll tell the story of the uprising through the eyes of the people who, to quote one activist, led, bled, and never gave up. In a country where dissent was silenced, where people were beaten for speaking out, what happened was almost unthinkable. This is a story about Bangladesh, but the questions it raises go far beyond its borders. Where does power truly lie? And why did this uprising succeed, where so many others have failed? So to describe this area of where we are on campus.
Right now we're sitting at a tea stall. It's called Robiul Bhaiyer Chayer Dokan in Bengali.
I'm sitting down with Prapti Taposhi.
I have just completed my honors and masters, majoring in economics from Jahangirnagar University, and I would like to call myself an activist, a human rights defender.
Jahangirnagar University is northwest of the capital city, Dhaka. It's a really beautiful campus, lots of trees, lots of lakes.
We come here after our classes and we talk about different kind of things. We have debates over a cup of teas.
This country runs on tea, doesn't it?
Yeah, the people of this country runs on tea, for sure. The tea stalls are the most important and historic place for having political debates.
On the evening of July 14th, 2024, Prapti was out with friends having one of those political debates. Sheikh Hasina was about to give a press conference, and they all wanted to watch. It had already been a harrowing few days for student activists like herself. Since June, a debate had been raging about a quota system for government jobs.
And let's now shift focus to Bangladesh, where university campuses have become battlegrounds in a way over a contentious government job quota system.
A certain percentage of highly desirable government jobs had been set aside for descendants of freedom fighters, the name for those who fought in Bangladesh's 1971 War of Independence. And while the policy was framed as honoring the past, for students, it felt like something else. a way of rewarding political loyalty. The beneficiaries, they believed, weren't just the descendants of war heroes, they were the children of ruling party members.
I don't see any logic in allotting the quota, which is meant for the freedom fighters, to their grandchildren.
In a country where 56% of government jobs are reserved for the entitled people, there is no place for deserving people.
Here's Dr. Muhammad Yunus.
Many young people felt very frustrated. Government jobs are reserved for followers of a particular party. You are a brilliant student, but you're not within that category, so you don't get the job. Someone who didn't have any qualification got the job.
The students who were protesting against the government job quotas back in the first week of July, the protests were very peaceful.
It became a movement about the quota system. But you never realize that this will grow into something which will bring the collapse of the whole regime.
No one was talking about regime collapse at this point. After all, this quota issue was not new. It had been debated over and haggled about for years.
In 2018, a similar protest broke out in Dhaka. Students protested against the quota system. They called for it to be scrapped. It led to violence, and finally the government scrapped the system. But Dhaka's High Court rolled that back. It said that the cancellation was invalid, so the protests began again.
So it was the High Court that reinstated the quota system. And even though Hasina seemed to agree with the court's decision, her government still appealed it. And at this point, everyone is being asked to be patient while the court takes up the appeal. So, take me back to July 14th, the evening of July 14th, and the speech that Sheikh Hasina made.
I vividly remember the press conference. I was eating chotpoti, that's the kind of, snack in Bangladesh.
I just had some.
Oh, right. So one of my friends, we were in a place where everybody were having snacks and talking and gossiping. And then she came onto live and we started to watch the live together.
There had been protests on this issue all summer. Prapti and her friends hoped Hasina would be willing to make concessions. So when they heard what she actually had to say, they were stunned.
Why do they have so much resentment towards freedom fighters? If the grandchildren of freedom fighters don't get quota benefits, should the grandchildren of the Razakars get the benefits?
The word Razakar is greatly insulting to many in Bangladesh. It refers to the people who collaborated with the West Pakistanis during the War of Independence. Sheikh Hasina either didn't know or didn't care what kind of reaction she would cause by using this word in connection with students who were just protesting the quota system.
Everybody there was very enraged. They felt insulted. I can feel the extreme emotion of being insulted in front of the whole world. So that day marked the final coffin on Sheikh Hasina.
That's what turned you,
yes,
personally.
Yes.
So do you remember, was there an immediate reaction with your friends?
Yeah, absolutely. Right after the press conference was finished, we got together and we started to join a march, particularly the women of Jahangirnagar University. That was so spontaneous because everybody just came down from their dorms and started to chant slogans and joining the march.
And the slogans were hurling the Razakar insult back at Sheikh Hasina. The students weren't running from it now. They were embracing it.
They were chanting a very famous slogan. That means, Waras, Waras, Razakars, Razakars. Who said that? The fascist regime.
This was their I am Spartacus moment. You know, the famous scene in the movie where they all stand in solidarity to protect Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
This was big. The students had found their courage, the movement had found a message, and it spread online. On campuses across the country, students flooded into common areas, and suddenly, Prapti says, no one needed to be convinced to join the protests.
Before that, the people who are related to activism like us, we used to write about the fascist regime, the autocratic regime, and etc. But there were very few of us, thousands of students, and chanting slogans, saying out loud that this is a fascist regime. That was something I could not even think it is possible in Bangladesh. Somehow it just clicked in everybody's minds. So I would say that that day is historic.
Things were in motion now. The protests were spreading, but they were about to take a darker turn at a place with a history of protest that dates back decades. Bangladesh's traditional heart of activism, Dhaka University.
Everything in some way begins with Dhaka University.
The thing that strikes you immediately is it's just murals and murals and murals. Every single concrete panel is covered in not just graffiti, but revolutionary art.
Whether it's the 1971 Liberation War or the anti-dictatorship movement of 1990, it's all started right here on this campus.
I'm walking the campus with two student leaders.
My name is Ashifa Khatun and I'm a student of International Relations. I was one of the organizers in July.
Sheikh Hasina, I'm a final year LLB student and I'm also a central coordinator of the July Uprising.
Anika and Ashifa were both here on July 15th. This is a day after Sheikh Hasina's now infamous Razakar remarks sparked protests on campuses across the country.
15 July, we were in the front line of the protest.
The way students reacted the night before clearly caught Hasina and her ruling Awami League party off guard. But her government had been down this road before, and they quickly regrouped. They turned to a familiar tactic by deploying their political shock troops.
We were seeing the Chhatra League and Awami goons. They had some deadly weapons in their hands.
Chhatra League was that way?
Yes.
And you guys were on this side?
Chhatra League, translated as Student League. They play a big role, especially in the early part of this story. They're the student wing of Sheikh Hasina's Awami League party, originally formed to promote its ideology on campus. But their role goes far beyond politics. They've long been accused of acting as a gang, armed, organized enforcers used to intimidate and attack anyone who dares dissent. On July 15th, they were spoiling for a fight.
We were running from there to here. We were chanting slogans and we were talking about resistance.
The two groups were marching toward each other. The student protesters on one side, the Chhatra League on the other. One side is unarmed. The other side has all manner of weapons.
They had hockey sticks, they had bricks, everything.
Suddenly, the Chhatra League attacked.
Some bricks were thrown at us suddenly, and some people started beating us. We were beaten up with sticks with deadly weapons. Girls were bleeding. Some girls have fainted in the streets. They were beating the girls when they are fainted. They were beating the boys. I just saw that one brick has just hit a girl. I started to panic by seeing her bleeding because she was bleeding so badly.
The women ran for cover. Some ducked inside their dormitories, others taking shelter inside university buses. Nowhere was safe.
Students were dragged off university buses and beaten. You can still see the blood stains here on the footpath. See this tree? Students were beaten right under it.
Did you send messages? Did you think you might die?
Yes, we think we might die. I called my father and I told him that I might die, but he should not have any regret because I'm dying to demand justice.
The Chatra League was relentless, hounding them wherever they retreated.
All of us went to the hospital and some of us were injured, and they went to the hospital and attacked us. They were saying that they will beat us to death.
They followed you to the hospital then?
Yes, and the female leaders of Chatra League, they were laughing at us that we are injured.
The female leaders of Chatra League?
Yes. They were just laughing at us. They were singing songs that we are injured, our girls are crying, and we are bleeding.
These weren't isolated incidents or spontaneous clashes, says prosecutor Tajul Islam, who is heading up the investigation into the previous Awami League government. He believes these attacks were deliberate and strategic and came straight from Sheikh Hasina.
We have got the evidence that the senior leaders are saying that to resist these protesters, Chatra League is enough.
Chatra League is enough. According to the prosecutor, Sheikh Hasina's government thought their student wing could sort out the protesters, crack a few skulls, and they'd back down.
They have instructed the Chatra League to use lethal weapons. We have many conversations between the party senior leaders that they were carrying arms, that they're trying to kill the students.
After the fighting subsided later that evening, the Dhaka University student protesters returned to the halls, bloodied and shaken.
Some were crawling, some had lost their shoes, clothes were torn, people were in shock.
They armed themselves with sticks and pieces of broken furniture, whatever was around, and they were ready to get back out there, ready to stand up to the Chatra League.
You'd think after being attacked, people didn't want to return? But no. Everyone came back, even those with injuries were more determined. Many even wanted to go back the same night.
All the people came and took to the streets, and we all resisted together. We cried together and we fought together. 15 July has changed all of us.
Across university campuses, a storm was brewing against Sheikh Hasina. Hasina wasn't backing down either, in public or in private. In this phone call obtained by the AJI unit, Sheikh Hasina is talking to a leader of Chatra League about what set her off.
They are out there chanting slogans about slapping freedom fighters. When I hear that, I lose my temper. Why would they chant that? They call themselves Razakars.
She's defensive and can't really understand why students reacted to her words like they did, why things were suddenly spinning out of control.
I didn't call them Razakars. I was just saying, is it only the children of Razakars who are brilliant? The children of freedom fighters never are. That was my question.
So what is it about this word, Razakar, that provoked such a visceral reaction? Well, it all dates back to when Bangladesh became Bangladesh. We'll get into that after this quick break.
Get your news in less than 3 minutes, 3 times per day with the Al Jazeera News Updates. Just ask your home device to play the news by Al Jazeera or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
So we're talking about the resonance of this term, Razakar. And to help explain, I want to bring in our producer, Tamara Khandaker, who you're going to be hearing from throughout this series. Hi, Tamara.
Hey, Kevin.
So, Tamara, this is a story that's really close to your heart. Your family is from Bangladesh. So tell us what you're going to be doing over these episodes.
Yeah, so look, Bangladesh is a pretty young country, and it's a place where the past is never just the past. The political landscape, people's personal lives, everything is shaped by the legacy of its independence war. So you can't just look at the headlines. You really have to go back into this recent history to understand what's going on. And I know I don't have to convince you of this because we're both history nerds, but Bangladesh's history really is fascinating. It's tumultuous, violent, thrilling, but it's also inspiring. And Sheikh Hasina's family is right at the center of it.
Right. So for each episode, you're going to take us back to a moment in time, a single date in Sheikh Hasina's life that will give us a deeper understanding of what's going on today.
That's right.
All right. So which date are we starting with?
December 16th, 1971. Hundreds of thousands have gathered at the Ramna racecourse, right in the heart of Dhaka. They're there to witness history. They watch as West Pakistani General Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi sits down at a small wooden table. He signs the document of surrender and hands over his revolver, a symbol of total defeat. The war is over. The crowd erupts. People flood the streets. They're hugging, crying, chanting, Joy Bangla. They wave the red and green flag of a new country, Bangladesh. But not everyone who dreamed of this moment is here to see it. Sheikh Hasina is 24, thousands of miles away under house arrest in West Pakistan with her mother and siblings. Her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, has been imprisoned there since the independence war began. And it was at this very racecourse, just 9 months earlier, that Mujib gave the speech that lit the fuse. Sheikh Hasina was born in 1947, the same year the British split India into two, a Hindu-majority India and a Muslim-majority Pakistan. What's now Bangladesh was once East Pakistan, divided from West Pakistan by language, culture, and 1,000 miles of Indian territory. From the start, the arrangement was a disaster.
Easterners have long felt they've had a raw deal from the central government in Rawalpindi. They complain of economic neglect, and they say that until now, they've had nothing like the political influence they deserve as the nation's most populous province.
And there was no fiercer advocate for Bengalis than Sheikh Hasina's father.
Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is the man at the center of the crisis now threatening to split Pakistan apart. In West Pakistan, he is disliked, mistrusted, even hated. But here among the Bengalis of East Pakistan, he is idolized.
Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Mujib fought for the rights of his people, pushing back against discrimination, demanding autonomy, and the right to speak Bengali.
You have to give Bengal their right to live. They must be master of their own resources.
By 1971, it all boiled over.
The bitterness of poverty and resentment in East Pakistan erupted today in a kind of civil war. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman declared the region an independent republic, which he said will be called Bangladesh, the land of the Bengalis.
The two sides fell into a lopsided war. Pakistan's army against ordinary Bengalis, students, farmers, and workers demanding a country of their own. The fighting was brutal. West Pakistan bombed villages from the air, burned homes, and massacred civilians. But they didn't do it alone. Some of the worst violence was carried out with help from local collaborators, known as the Razakars. They were Bengalis who worked against independence. Whether it was for money, power, or ideology, they helped the West Pakistani army identify and target pro-independence Bengalis. They were implicated in torture, mass killings, and the systematic rape of women, often their own neighbors. Entire families disappeared after being named by a collaborator.
They prepared a list of the intellectuals, journalists, professors, and teachers, and they picked up at least 250 these people who are the intellectuals and brain of the Bengal.
After 8 bloody months of fighting, the balance of power changed abruptly when India joined the war on the East Pakistan side. It caught West Pakistan off guard and sapped their resolve. Within weeks, the instrument of surrender was signed right back at the Ramna racecourse.
Today, Thursday the 16th of December, is recorded as the end of East Pakistan.
Bengalis got their victory, but the crimes of those who helped the West Pakistan army wouldn't be forgotten.
Those who took part in the war must be treated as war criminals.
They became embedded in the public consciousness. The betrayal, in many ways, even more unforgivable than the crimes of the army itself. And the word Razakar became a slur, synonymous with traitor. And the worst thing you could be called in Bangladesh. Hasina never forgot either. As she entered politics, she made it her mission to bring the Razakars to justice. She oversaw the revival of the War Crimes Tribunal to try those accused of collaborating with West Pakistan in 1971. But more than 50 years later, it was her own comments about Razakars that would ignite the anger of a new generation and set off a wave of campus protests and violent reprisals.
One of the most dramatic confrontations was yet to come, one that would be caught live and would become an unexpected source of inspiration. That's after the break.
The Inside Story podcast dissects, analyzes, and helps define major global stories. We get into the details with experts who explain how policies affect people. The Inside Story podcast by Al Jazeera. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm back at Jahangarnagar University, and there's a storm coming.
Whoa, listen to that.
I'm here with Maliha Namla, and she's not scared of a little rain.
Does it rain a lot like this?
The rain in Jahangarnagar University is the most beautiful rain I have ever seen in Bangladesh.
Maliha was here on July 15th, the day after the Razakar remarks, and she remembers the energy on campus that day.
It was really giving goosebumps to us.
It was electric.
Yes.
People on campus were waking up after a night of protests, and that included Prapti Taposhi, who we met earlier.
On the 15th of July, we started a march. We were so outraged and angry and sad and disappointed and felt so insulted.
Prapti was a senior leader, a few years older than Maliha.
The march was very huge. Everyone was there.
Unfortunately for them, everyone also included the Chhatra League, the armed Awami League Party student group, who are sometimes just referred to as the student wing. Armed and dangerous, just like at Dhaka University to the south of here, they too plan to confront protesters with violent force.
The student wing leaders, they covered themselves in helmets, they had sticks on their hand. I remember very vividly because I was giving slogans and they just came and bit me on my hand because I had a mic.
Chatra League confronted Prapti, screaming at her to get out, run away. At first, she didn't listen.
I was still not running. They bit in my leg. Below my knee, they bit so brutally with hockey stick that I had to run away. Everybody who was with me, they were running, they were beating, bloods everywhere because some of the students, they had their head brutally bitten up.
The Chatra League is a real menace. Armed students given carte blanche to terrorize the campus.
They used to do many bad things like drug dealings.
Maliha says another one of those bad things was extortion. They would extort the food stall owners on campus.
So you're telling me the Chatra League, this group of student thugs or vigilantes, would go around to the food stalls for the students and make them pay protection money?
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
And this all was under protection of the Vice Chancellor.
The allegations against Chatra League go beyond extortion. They've been accused of everything from beatings to harassment to sexual violence, spreading fear on campus, operating with almost total impunity, while university officials, police, and the ruling party looked the other way.
We couldn't do anything against these things because all the authorities of campus are involved with them. The government of the country is involved with them.
July 15th at Jahangirnagar was no different. Prapti remembers begging the police for help.
Police was right there and just watching and doing nothing. I was just talking to the police, do something to them. They're gonna kill us.
Her calls for help fell on deaf ears, and the students needed a place to hide. They made their way to the home of the university's vice chancellor. Here's Maliha again.
We came here to seek protection from Chatra League. And we were here almost 2 hours in front of this Vice Chancellor's house.
The students hoped the chancellor would help. They chanted for him to let them in, but he wouldn't. They sat outside for a couple of hours, and then more bad news.
We were getting videos from the journalist that the full truck of goons are entering the campus from different gates. They had a list of the leaders of the protesters they wanted to kill.
The students were about to be surrounded, not just by Chatra League, which is technically a student group, but also by Juba League, older ex-Chatra Leaguers who were now streaming into the campus. Prapti, Maliha, and the others knew they had to do something.
We were so terrified. We had to save our lives, so we broke down the house gate.
The mob wasn't far behind them. They were standing just outside the perimeter.
They entered through this gate.
They entered and they were throwing the petrol bombs and the glass bottles and bricks, and we were so frightened.
The students huddled for protection in a narrow corridor on the grounds.
We were 60 to 70 people. We adjusted in that small place.
So you went into an outdoor kind of narrow hallway, 60 or 70 people crushed in there, almost like forming a ball of humanity that they couldn't penetrate.
Yes.
The students had piled up against each other, skin to skin, with barely any room to breathe. Maliha was right there in the middle of that crowd with Prapti.
I could feel everybody was so squeezed and so congested, and I was running out of breath.
They were trapped, pinned in on both sides, being pelted with bricks and bottles, screaming at the Chatra League, "Stop throwing things."
I really thought that would be the last day of our lives, and the way the people were chanting Kalima, one thing that the Muslim people chant before their death. So everybody was there, was chanting Kalima.
Everyone was prepared to die.
Maliha genuinely thought these might be her last moments. And if that were to be the case, she wanted the world to see what they were facing. She decided to do something she'd never done before. She started a Facebook Live.
When the Chatra League and Juba Leagues entered the gate, I went to a live and telling the people that we are being attacked.
On her Facebook Live, she can be heard screaming, You can see we're being attacked. Maliha wasn't the only one. Some of the younger students had started their own live broadcasts. Prapti joined their desperate cries for help.
I started to ask everybody, please come out of your dorm and help us because the administration is not helping us, the police is not helping us, nothing is working.
Prapti didn't think a Facebook Live would do much good at all. She knew what they were up against.
And I know that our general students, they do not have any arms. How would they rescue us? The police were not being able to rescue us.
Because you were basically in a hole. You were crammed in and you're just talking to a screen.
Yeah.
And you're like, please help us, please help us.
Exactly.
And then they actually were listening.
Yes.
Thanks to the lives, news had spread fast. They didn't know it, but people were responding. Their fellow students heard their call and came by their hundreds to the Vice Chancellor's house. At first, they didn't realize what was happening.
When I went out, I was shouting, who are they?
Then it clicked. They were saved.
They came to rescue us in front of the guns and the deadly weapons.
A large number of female students, they had these utensils in their hand. The plates, the glasses, the forks, the knives, whatever they can find in their rooms. They just came down at 3 a.m. out of their dorms to help us.
I'm like tearing up listening to this.
Yeah.
These kind of stories just... individual acts of bravery. Oh, gosh, sorry.
A massive crowd responding to the cries for help surrounded the attackers. They didn't have the arms, but they had the numbers. They overwhelmed the Chhatra League and chased them off campus for good.
We kicked them out from our university and we stood so strong and so still, they couldn't get back again.
So I'm an American, so I think in terms of cowboy movies. Yeah. This reminds me of when the heroes are pinned down and they're being shot at by the bandits, and then the cavalry shows up right at the end to save you. That really happened.
That exactly happened. And I'd say the way the students of Jahangirnagar University came down to rescue us and help us, I never felt that kind of solidarity in my lifetime. That day restored my idea, my faith on humanity and sisterhood and brotherhood.
That was so brave of them, and we didn't expect that people take the life risk to save us.
Inside Sheikh Hasina's circle, concern mounted. A former official would later tell investigators, our students, the Chhatra League, were supposed to confront the protesters. But what happened was unexpected. The students fought back.
I clearly remember that I was looking in front of somebody's eyes who had this hockey stick in his hand and helmet and wearing a mask. And he has this sense of power in his eyes that he can do anything to me.
But when she didn't submit, when she refused to retreat, the armed men didn't know what to do. They were scared too.
I says that they were shaking. I was shouting, and I saw that in their eyes they were fading away, that sense of power that was fading away, and they had this fear.
It's a bluff.
Yes, exactly.
Because the more they do to you, the more they strengthen your cause.
Exactly. And then I says that they were fearful. They were fearful of us.
And for Maliha, it only served to harden her resolve. There was no turning back. Now, it's victory or death.
I don't know what I was, but I was emotionless and I couldn't believe the situation actually at that time.
When did you finally cry?
I finally cried at the 36th of July.
Really?
Yes. When Hasina finally stepped down and I feel that all the people died is worthy of something, and we finally have the victory. Then I cried that day a lot.
Maliha didn't know it at the time, but there was a young man watching her Facebook Live that night. He was a student journalist at a university in the north of the country, and the images he captured of a student killed by police would go on to inspire an entire nation to action and would help lead to the end of Sheikh Hasina's regime. That's next time on Al Jazeera Investigates. Al Jazeera's investigative unit approached all parties featured in this series. Sheikh Hasina disputes the authenticity of the recordings. In a statement, an Awami League spokesperson said Sheikh Hasina has never used the phrase lethal weapons and did not specifically authorize the security forces to use lethal force. The statement went on to say, Sheikh Hasina and her former ministers were not personally responsible for or directed the use of lethal force against crowds. A representative for the Chatra League wrote, throughout the entire period, the organization exercised utmost restraint and remained committed to peaceful democratic practices under the strict political direction of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The Awami League and its affiliated organizations were also under strict instructions to avoid any form of confrontation. In regard to the phone calls obtained by Al Jazeera, a Chatra League spokesperson says these so-called recordings are part of a calculated campaign of deceit, an orchestrated tool of disinformation weaponized by those who have unlawfully captured state institutions operating as a repressive regime. The Chatra League has formally been banned in Bangladesh, and hundreds of Chatra League members are now facing charges for July 15th attacks on students. The Awami League called the process by which the International Criminal Tribunal, or ICT, is prosecuting these cases, quote, hopelessly compromised. This episode was written and produced by me, Kevin Hirten, and Tamara Khandaker, with Craig Pennington, who is also our audio editor. Additional editing by Manny Panaretos. Clean Cuts did the final sound mix. Black Box did the music for this series. Will Thorne is the show's executive producer, and Nay Alvarez is Al Jazeera's head of audio. We will see you next time.